welcome to our listeners on Gold FM and as well as to our viewers on FBC TV. Welcome to Speak Your Mind. This is another episode, another week, and for this week we've decided to get on board the CEO for the National Fire Authority, Mr. John O'Connor. So welcome to the show, and of course, Mr. Timothy Nakaruru, Divisional Fire Officer, Central Eastern. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. I understand there's been a lot of developments happening lately with the National Fire Authority. We wanted to get you on board today to talk about the recent spate of fires that have been happening and the awareness programs that you have. But before we get into that, I understand that there are some big things that are happening with the National Fire Authority, one of which is the construction of your head office in Como Park. Tell us a bit about this, Mr. O'Connor.
Yeah, good afternoon to you. And firstly, we'd like to thank FBC and Speak Your Mind for giving us this opportunity to come and share with the members of the community developments that are happening in NFA, and more importantly, to raise awareness on the importance of fire safety to the members of to your listeners. And NFA has submitted a proposal, an application to Sub-City Council, Town and Country Planning, and the Ministry of Lands for the rezoning of Como Park, part of Como Park, to be used as our national head office and also as a fire station. Part of that application, for the application to be processed, we were advised by the Sub-City Council that we needed to do public consultation. So we had public consultations last week, Thursday, at Samambula Primary School. We had some members of the community in the Samambula area who came. They were.
What was the feedback like from the members from the community?
Yeah, there were some had reservations because they said it's a residential area. Fire authority is usually associated with noise. Some raised the issues of the road, that the road, small roads, and fire trucks make it difficult in traveling. Others thought, the park. There's a park there which is used by the members of the community, and wanted clarification if the developments, NFA's developments, will impede that park. Apart from that, there were quite positive responses. I think most of the members of the community have accepted for NFA to become effective in the service delivery. We need to move closer to the members of the community. And I had explained to the members of the community present that night that, we have international benchmarks. So, for example, to effectively fight a fire, we need to reach the scene at within 7 minutes.
Right now, your head office is in Walubey,
yeah, it's
right?
in Walubey,
Right.
Yeah. And during in the afternoons, if we respond to a fire in Tamabua, Tadirua, and Samambula area, to get up to there is quite a challenge. So in terms
Especially
of
with traffic.
with traffic, yeah. So as development grows, residential areas start to be populated. The National Fire Authority, to allow us to reach you in 7 minutes, we have to move with the development, and we explained to people that that's one of the issues raised is where we want to build the station, and the thing has a children's park, and they were asking whether if we can provide provisions, and we've considered that. And so apart from the consultation, the members of the community have until the 23rd of September to write in and put in their submissions what they think of our proposal in terms of building.
Who do they write to, Mr. O'Connor?
They write to the Sub-City Council.
Okay.
There's advertisements in the paper where they write to and how they can express their submissions. Because after that, then at the same time, we are doing a traffic management assessment. We're also doing environment impact assessment. All those then will accompany our applications together with the views of the members of the community, and we will submit to the City Council after the 23rd of September.
Before I turn to Mr. Nakaruru, Mr. O'Connor, just a lot of people, Samambula, of course, is a residential area. A lot of people have grew up in going to Como Park. So the question is, will it affect? I mean, will it take away that privilege?
No, in terms of the area that has been allocated to NFA, it won't affect the park. And one of the issues concern raised is if NFA is approval is granted, if NFA is part of their development approval to tidy up the park and make it more, a friendly environment area. And that too is important for us to consider, because we'll be also using the park for our physical education and so forth. So those, but the good thing is majority of the people who were present that night supported the development. They're saying that part of the park, which is near FEA substation, is now mainly used for drinking and I think FNU boys or members of the community. Every weekends it's a hive of drinking, and there are, I think, bottle shops around too. So they thought that NFA moving closer to them. And there are high-risk areas too there. You have the business community in Samambula. You have the FNU, big campus. You have the accommodation. You have schools. And then we setting up there will allow us to respond effectively to Kundan seeing inmates and so forth, and that surrounding area. So we were quite pleased with the positive response. But we want to raise awareness so everybody in that area can, speak their mind, and then put in their submissions to the Suva City Council.
Well, if you're listening in from Samambula, or in fact from anywhere around the country, from the office, if you want to ask the CEO and of course the divisional fire officer any questions, if you need any clarifications, call us up 3220-906 or 3220-907, and I'm sure the gentleman will be happy to answer your questions. Mr. Nakaruru, being the divisional fire officer, I know you're involved, heavily involved also in firefighting. I've even seen the CEO himself in a number of fires that we've been to. How easy does it make your work once the head office is moved to Samambula?
Yeah, as mentioned by Mr. CEO, the business of emergency response time is crucial. So the closer we are to our communities, those that we serve, the faster we can respond to their needs. As you know, we not only operate our firefighting service now, we are into road accident rescue services. We into paramedics, ambulance services. So it's important for us to be in a location that that is clear of obstructions by way of traffic. Our current location in Wallu Bay is there's only two ways from there. We either head towards into the city or head up towards Reservoir Road. This location we're looking at in Como Park, it's got about 5 ways out from.
It's more like a strategic
location. So it would help us better serve the communities in terms of quicker response time.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any questions, like I said before, call us up 3220-906 or 3220-907 for any questions in as far as the National Fire Authority is concerned. Do stick around as well, because towards the end of the show we have new guests, and we'll be talking about suicide prevention. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. But until then, we'll go into a short break, and when we come back, we'll still be talking to Mr. John O'Connor and Mr. Timothy Nakaruru from the National Fire Authority. Back and you're on Speak Your Mind. This week's episode, we have the National Fire Authority CEO, Mr. John O'Connor, and of course the Divisional Fire Officer, Central Eastern, Mr. Timothy Nakaruru on the show. If you have any questions, call us up 3220-906 or 3220-907. You can also email us on goldfm@fbc.com.fj. Mr. O'Connor, I understand there's also a review plan for your legislation.
Yeah, apart from the head office, one of the reasons where Como Park was identified is because of strategic location. Secondly, is because of the current location. In a survey conducted a few years ago, it was identified as located in a risk area, high risk prone area. Because if there's a tsunami and the Wallu Bay Bridge is cut off, then we have no access in responding. So in Samambula, like Timothy said, we have so many access out of the thing which allows us. At the same time, too, we are also conducting, we also advertise for the review, inviting written submissions in relation to the review of the rules, legislation in relation to NFA. Currently, our current legislation, firstly, only allows NFA specifically to provide fire services to towns and city boundaries. The current legislation doesn't allow us to provide fire services beyond the city boundaries. Our services is confined within that city boundary. Secondly, our role has expanded. And government has mandated us that we need to, apart from expanding your role, you need to expand the service. And National Fire Authority needs to become a national services. That's why one of the reasons in reviewing the act. We are currently confined to city boundaries. Government's intention for NFA is for us to move out and provide services wherever there's in alignment with government's development plans. So, for example, we're looking at a fire station in Corvo. We're looking at a fire. It's not a town at the moment. In Corvisilo, in Corlevu, in Singatoka, to allow that services. And we need to change the legislation to allow us to decentralize
So with the current legislation, Mr. O'Connor, if I can just ask, if there's a fire outside of these boundaries, what happens?
Yeah, we're not in accordance with the current act. We have no obligations to respond, but we are responding.
You are anyway.
We are responding anyway. So that's why we want to change the legislation to empower us, to give us the. Secondly, this government has in its intention for NFA is that NFA must start to take a lead role in terms of supporting the services in terms of disaster and so forth. So our services are expanding. We, like Timothy said, we're providing fire, we're providing ambulance, we're providing chemical and we're providing road accident rescues.
Any sort of emergencies that you...
Yeah. So our role is more shifting from firefighting into an emergency management service. While we're currently doing some of those functions, the current legislation doesn't give us the responsibility to perform that function. So to protect the firefighters and the service that we deliver, we need to align the legislation to that, to align with the current functions we are doing. And there are other issues that have been raised there. Like, for example, customers are continuously complaining. There's so many unscrupulous fire agents. We need to strengthen our regulatory department so that we can, enforce or license the fire agents. If you want to form a fire agent company, a similar setup with FEA, you have to register. We are registered license provider of fire. We need to set standards for firefighting equipment and so forth. Those are the things that we need to review the legislation, so to align to the current services we are providing, and also to strengthen the regulatory function that we are.
Right. You mentioned a lot about strengthening your services. Mr. Nakaruru, with the, I know you can only speak probably for Central and Eastern, but with the manpower that you have at the moment, do you think it's enough to meet the requirements that may be included in the new legislation, in the review?
Of course not the current manpower. We may have to double or triple the amount of men that we have at the moment, because of the types of services that we hope to provide once the new legislation comes in. And I believe CEO is working on that, and I think we are in the process now of recruiting a couple more new recruits, and in the near future we'll be recruiting much more. And then the challenge is also is how do we train them to prepare for these all new hazards. We got a challenge now to look after each and all hazards approach. It's no longer confined to the fire service just fighting fires.
Right.
And the challenge is how do we train them, to meet the modern environment now and the different types of hazards that we face. We are fortunate in Fiji. We haven't had chemical, biological, radiological incidents.
I'll see. Thank God for that again. just give me, just 1 second. So I think we have a caller on line. Welcome to Gold FM. Speak your mind.
Oh, hello, Ronald. Just two issues I like to.
Okay. Just carry on.
Yeah. So we are fortunate, but we have to brace ourselves for those things that are happening around the world that may also impact the Fiji communities. And that's the challenge. If you ask, is our current manpower sufficient? I would say no.
But we're looking at getting more.
We've just the board has just endorsed a strategic planning framework from 2013 to 2017, and priorities for different years have been highlighted, and includes this review of the legislation, the Como Park, and all other the expansion of the services, and also aligned to that is the improvement in infrastructure, in developments, capital developments for fire stations and so forth, the development of firefighters in terms of their skills, in terms of their competency, all aligned together in our strategic plan. So it's quite laid out there. In the next 5 years, what we need to do to prepare the National Fire Authority for these huge challenges that are coming our way. But we're looking at it as a challenge, and I think the firefighters are all focused in preparing themselves for these new roles.
Right. Like I said, we'll be having someone else on the show shortly, but I know we have little time left. But very quickly, Mr. O'Connor, before we end this segment, the trend of fires in the recent months, how has it been? I know there's a lot of awareness that's been done.
Yeah.
How is the trend featuring so far? Is it improving? Is it not?
Yeah, thanks.
I mean, you can't see fire is a good thing.
I'm happy that you raised that question, because it links closely to the next guest will come in terms of suicide. This year, last year we had 95 fires. This year we have 68 now. But I can happily report, or in terms of analysis of data, until when we started June, we had reached about 64, 64, 60, 61. And then from June, July, August, we just had a few fires, which is a positive trend in terms of moving forward and achieving the target that we set for the end of the year. However, the concern from National Fire Authorities this year, we've had new trends, whereby family members or homeowners have resorted to setting their properties on fire, and at the same time setting themselves on fire. The fire deaths this year, 6 fire deaths, 5 resulted in this kind of fire. There's 14 of them that was intentionally lit. For example, we take one example in Ba. The husband and wife had a dispute in the morning. The husband then chased the wife outside the house. He then locked up the house and poured kerosene upon throughout the house and poured kerosene upon himself. And our advice to members of the community: if you're having family disputes, setting fire to your property is not the solution. You need to seek professional advice to deal with your problems.
Well, like I said, Mr. O'Connor, time has caught up with us. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Mr. Nakaru, thank you so much. I think we'll need to get you back on the show again some other time so we can have talk even more. But coming up in our next segment, we have Selina Kuruleda. She'll be talking to us about today. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. Until then, gentlemen, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Bulvinaka, and welcome back to Speak Your Mind. This is the third segment, and like I said earlier, we will be talking on World Suicide Prevention Day. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Selina Kuruleda, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Tell us a bit about how important today is.
Right, thank you very much. World Suicide Prevention Day is actually a day that commemorates those who have attempted suicide and or the families of survivors of suicide, as well as the whole tie-in into mental health and mental illness. World Suicide Prevention Day is an initiative of the World Health Organization in partnership with International Association for Suicide Prevention. Here in Fiji, celebrations are already celebrations to commemorate the day, to talk about how we can help prevent suicide in our community. The theme for this year's World Suicide Prevention Day is Stigma, a Major Barrier to Suicide Prevention. And so we have activities all day today from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then from 5 to 6 p.m. this evening at the Lower Civic Center, there is a candle vigil to remember those whose lives have ended prematurely due to suicide.
There's also encouragement. I was just reading a statement from the Police Commissioner, Brigadier General Ioane Naivalurua. He's also encouraging people to light a candle by a window at 8 p.m. today to actually remember those who have lost their lives to suicide and survivors also.
Yes.
Don't forget survivors.
Yes. Those who have lost their lives to suicide, so you worry, you think about their families and the difficulties that they must be going through and their friends. And then for those who have attempted and who have not completed suicide. Just thinking about them, talking with them, and trying to have strategies that are effective that will help these people through difficult times. When we the 8 p.m. Light a Candle by Your Window is actually an initiative that has been organized by the International Association of Suicide Prevention. So it is good that it is coming to Fiji. But because there's so many activities happening, the organizers of today's event, mainly the Ministry of Health and several other NGOs, have decided that the 5 to 6 p.m. at the Civic Center would be an opportunity for students returning from school to also come in there. Because if you look at the statistics, it's from 15 to 24-year-olds. This is the biggest age group of the people that who have lost, who've been lost to suicide. So in that segment this evening, the Light a Candle, people will come. We've been trying to get people who have attempted suicide, who are ready to discuss, tell their story in a public forum, to come and to share their story, as well as to be able to say how they are coping. Because, suicide is very difficult because some of the signs are very obvious, and there are some signs that you couldn't tell why.
We'll get to those signs in a bit. If you're listening and you have any questions for Selina, you can call us up 3220-906 or 3220-907. The topic is, of course, World Suicide Prevention Day today. Now, just looking at you mentioned a bit about the age group that suicide is prevalent. Why do you think this is so, Selina?
This is several factors, huh? And here in Fiji, when we look at that age group, anecdotal evidence has told us that it's the most pressing time academically. Financially, it's most pressing for people who are just finding their jobs, starting out new families. It is also, in terms of academically, if they're transiting from high school to tertiary, the marks are not there. There's a lot of dispute and conflict within the family. A third evidence that has come to us.
I remember doing a story on this a couple of weeks or maybe a couple of months back, and there was some stats revealed that also love relationships.
Oh yes,
one of
and
the
that was the third big one. It's relationships, relationships between girlfriend boyfriend, relationships within the home. Sometimes very difficult, conflictual relationships in the home, and people think that there are no avenues to explore to try and mitigate. So the end result is, that, no one really cares for me. And because we don't see the physical injury, we don't really know what's going on in people's hearts and in their minds until we sit down and talk to them. So, and this ties back into when we're talking about the signs and symptoms. The only way we can really pick up on the signs and symptoms if we make the observation. When we see people withdrawing from normal activities, when we see people giving away their prized possessions, when people talk about going away for a very long time and never coming back, I'm going to a better place. When you hear comments like that, make an observation, okay? If there's something going on, I'm available. If you don't think you're suited to talking to that person, there is professional help available. Most of the staff in all the hospitals in Fiji are trained. The police force, some of the police force members have been trained, and the police have been very instrumental in terms of coming in and just trying to assist and getting these people, and then people who are thinking of attempting or having a difficult time, and then referring them on to essential services. Then we also have people in the social welfare department who can assist as well. So there's a lot of players, people who can assist. But for the person who's feeling down and out, it is extremely important that you not be alone in this, that there is help available, and all of us have problems. I think all of us need to just be realistic about that. All cards on the table. Everybody in this world has problems. Everybody in Silver City has problems. In Fiji have problems. But being able to come and talk about these problems with a professional in a manner where they can help you, where you are prepared to do some hard work and maybe do some things differently in terms of your lifestyle, in terms of decision-making processes that we do, you can be assisted. So I guess if that's one of the biggest discussions about today, it's that you can be assisted.
There's always an avenue.
There is always an avenue. A couple of years ago, when in the National Committee on the Prevention of Suicide, which is a committee that sits in the Ministry of Health, it's a national body made up of partners from NGO as well as government and other stakeholders. We talk about the importance of, that it's a multifaceted approach. Life is for living, and because we are breathing, there is hope that our life can change, no matter how difficult it is. But having said that, there are also times when you will feel really down and out. Not everyone will be on a high all the time. So know that you can get help. Stigma, one issue about stigma that I think we need to highlight today is sometimes people think only the mentally ill are those that attempt to complete a suicide. This is incorrect. This is false. The average Chone, Maika, Selena on the street can also be feeling depressed, but normal feeling down and out.
Selena, we'll talk more about the signs and what to look out for. We'll head into a short break, but if you're listening from home, the topic today is, of course, suicide. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. If you have any comments, if you have something to share with us, do call us up, 3220-907 or 3220-906. We'll head into a short break, and when we return, more talking on suicide. Bulavinaka to our listeners on Gold FM. This is Speak Your Mind. We are talking to Selena Kuruleza, and the topic today is World Suicide Prevention Day. Like I said before, if you're at home, if you have anything to share with us on the event today, do call us up, 3220-906 or 3220-907. We were talking about the symptoms and the things to look out for. It's not easy, Selena, if I can ask.
Yeah, no, it's not easy because it can be people showing signs, and then there are some people who don't show any signs at all. So it can be quite difficult for you to pick it up. Having said that, it is even more important that when we do make these observations, or we can only make these observations if we're actually paying attention. And I say paying attention because it starts within the home. A lot of times we lose touch with what our children are doing. They're surfing the net by themselves, or they're talking with their mates, or they're shut in their room, and we don't go and investigate it. As responsible parents, as the guardians, if you're not a parent yet, but if you're the adult supervisor, you need to know what these people are doing. That's about making observations. In the classroom, it can be the student who just sits in the corner by themselves all the time, or the student who sits in the corner by themselves all the time, all the past 2 terms, and this term they're hyper and all over the place. Again, that sudden change in behavior, that's an indication something has switched, something is different. Does it mean that everyone who behaves differently is a potential suicide case? No, it is not the case. It just means that people are expressing themselves or showing this outward behavior because there is some stress or there is something that's going on in their life. They don't quite know how to take care of it, so they express it in that manner. A lot of times with cases associated with attempted suicides and completed suicides, a lot of times these people behave in a manner that is inappropriate. After the suicide attempt has taken place and everyone is going, oh, it's a rota. Man, he was, this is the time when they do behave in a manner that you feel is different, is not something that you would normally see from this individual. Isa, I see that today you were acting differently. Is everything okay?
It doesn't harm to question.
Better to be on the side of caution than to have a wasted life, a young, productive life. And here in Fiji, consistently over the past decade, there have been more suicides, more deaths from suicide than there has been from drowning, from fire, or from accidents. And that's alarming because these are unnecessary deaths. If the people who had attempted or had completed the suicide had an opportunity to seek avenues to express how emotionally frustrated, distressed they were, maybe could have assisted them. So today is very important in terms of, reaching out to the community, reaching out to young people, that, life is for living. This is not the way to go. We need to talk about our problems when there is a problem. For people who offer professional services, I encourage you to be professional about it. Information is confidential. Suva is a small community. Fiji is even smaller. So treat people with respect ourselves, and only will we be able to make inroads into bringing down these numbers that we have before us.
Unfortunately, we couldn't, but we were trying to get probably one survivor of suicide attempts to be on the show today. That didn't happen, but I'm sure, Selena, you may have already spoken to some survivors. What was it like?
It's very difficult. It's often described for the people here in Suva who come to see me without breaking any confidentiality. It's often talked about as a very dark hole that you descend into. Psychology books, clinicians often refer to as the black dog. It's a very dark and dreary place, and after many, many days of feeling really awful, and then they find themselves in this hole that they don't know how they dug up or how they got there, and it's so hard and difficult to climb out of. Some people, for those that have visited with me, consulted with me on this issue.
Sorry, my apologies. I'm thinking about our TV viewers. I'm forgetting about our listeners on radio. Can you just please, before you continue, just explain your line of work, Selena? My apologies.
I'm a psychologist by profession. I have a clinic here in Suva. I do consultation work for a lot of NGOs, government as well. And I do therapy, so I see people in my clinic upon appointment only. And today is one of the... yesterday when they were looking for suicide survivors, I spoke to some of them, but then people are reluctant to come on board because there's a stigma. I don't know how my workmates will react to me once they know, oh my goodness, she actually, overdosed, and she tried to hang herself. So I know quite a few because of the work that I do. I visit with quite a few of these people, or they visit me. It's a dark hole, it's a black dog. And it's the best way to come to be assisted is to talk about it. So it's talk therapy, it's medication. These two can go together. It's actually research has shown that if these two work together, your recovery rate is much faster if you have depression. And of course, community and social connections and relationships. Human beings, we're not meant to be alone. No man is an island. I think every musician out there says this. People say it's a cliche. When you talk about suicide prevention, it is not a cliche. We are meant to coexist. Some of the relationships we are in are difficult and we want out, but such is life that we have to learn to work through these difficulties that we will encounter because this is part of living. Like I was saying, there's so many activities. This World Suicide Prevention Day is just one of them today. We have World Mental Health Month in October, culminating with World Mental Health Day. And again, there's a lot of preparations underway for that. Survivors of suicide, for those of you out there, people who have attempted suicide, every step you take every day, that's a step towards recovery. And we just want to encourage you that you can do it. Whether it's seeking professional help from clinicians, from the hospital, from social welfare, from NGOs, or if it's about your spiritual life and that's where you find the healing, then by all means do what you need to do. But it's extremely important that we all work on this problem together. Fiji is a very small country. We are losing people unnecessarily and painfully to suicide. We did some research back in 2006. Excuse me. And for every suicide that was completed, when someone actually died. So you talk about suicide attempt or suicide completion. For every suicide completed in Fiji, approximately 1,700 people are affected. So, you know, you and I might be wondering, how on earth did you come up with this number? You consider the family, immediate family, extended family. You consider the community in which they live in. If they're a member of social groupings, for example, they played a sport, they're a member of a church group or a religious group of some sort. If they were working, the people in the workplace were impacted. If they were a student, the students in the school are impacted, the teachers are impacted, and in turn, their family, because these people then go home and talk about, you know, oi, so-and-so died because of suicide. So, you know, if you are having a problem, you might not even have a problem, you just feel like you need to talk to someone, you know.
Always talk.
Always.
Always. Thank you,
And if
Selena.
you're afraid to talk, you can diary, or you can do pictures, you can journal it in art form. There's so many other ways.
As long as you don't keep it bottled up inside you.
That's it.
Well, when we return, we're going to a short break now. And when we return, we'll talk a bit on some of the statistics that has been released by police. And this only was given to us today. So we'll talk more on that after the break. Vinaka, and welcome back. This is the last segment of Speak Your Mind. We are talking to Selena Khuruleda, and the topic today is World Suicide Prevention Day. Like I said, if you're at home listening in, and if you have encountered anything to do with today's topic, you can call us up on 3220-906 or 3220-907 and share with us your experiences. Or if you have any questions, call us up. Like I said earlier, Selena, police released some statistics this morning in relation to today being World Suicide Prevention Day. Now, one thing that I've noticed in the statistics is there are a high number of suicides happening in the Western Division. Now, I know you might not be privy to these statistics now, but do you think there might be a reason for this?
Again, anecdotal evidence that has been gathered over the past couple of years. Why in the West there is a higher ethnic representation of formerly Indo-Fijians. I believe the correct term now is Fijians.
Fijian.
There's a high representation of that, and the suicide statistics, both for attempted and completed suicide, the Indo-Fijians have been those who have completed or attempted suicides more. Now, why is it that it is this group of people, you might ask, or this ethnic group? In the research, anecdotal evidence and the research that we've gathered suggests that some of this is happening because they have very small nuclear units. So being able to reach out outside of their nuclear family is very difficult. And for those that want to reach out, there is a higher degree of stigmatization where people feel discriminated against if they reach out outside of the family. Also in the West, or where this ethnic group is overrepresented in suicide data, is because of the agriculture that's out there. You and I know that a lot of the industry or the economy in the West is agriculture. We also know that there has been a lot of pressure put on our agriculture industry. 5-6 years ago, it was about expiring land leases. 2 years ago, it's about the devastation caused by the natural disasters that we've had in our country. And this has both impacted on the high representation of Indo-Fijians, formerly Indo-Fijians, Fijians in our politically correct term is Fijian. So this is, those are three of the main reasons why they're overrepresented in the data. Having said that, and if you continue to analyze the data, I was fortunate I've had those data for a while now. You will see that there are more males completing suicides.
I was just going to ask you that. That's my next question. I was just looking at it now, and it seems like males are...
Again, overrepresented, yes. And this is a global trend. That's because when a male person or a man decides that this is it, they don't want to go on anymore, they would choose methods which are more lethal compared to the female. If you look at
So without sounding too, suicidal, it's they are more prone to having going all the way.
They would use strategies that would have a higher completion rate, is the way we would say it, a higher completion rate than would a female. And that's really to do with the makeup of how we're made up here and the types of chemicals that go within our body, yeah? And of course the nurturing woman compared to the man who isn't always viewed as the nurturer. This is a global trend. It's not special to Fiji. I guess the only thing that's special to Fiji is the ethnic grouping, that we have an overrepresentation of one group. But having said that, and if you compare the statistics for this year to the same period last year, to the same period the year before, and you do an analysis of the data, Fijians or Itoke have quickly caught up.
Right.
The numbers of Itoke men and women attempting or completing suicide are also on the rise, and this is alarming for everyone, because we often, or as Fijians, Itoke men and women, often claim that we have a huge support, extended family system to fall back on. So has this family system failed, or is it because we've all moved into the urban area and the traditional Nalevu, Talevu, and all these other people who would help in carrying the load of the household is no longer there? Maybe it's that. But again, a lot more research will need to go into that, and we need a lot more education, awareness for people to be able to come out and talk about these things, because we need to help each other fix this problem. The National Committee on the Prevention of Suicide has worked with, in partnership with the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture. We've tried to look at ways to reduce the access to means to complete or attempt to suicide. But again, it comes down to the individual. If someone is feeling lonely and the emotional pain cannot, they feel that they cannot bear it anymore, this is when people make that decision.
Celine, this is one question I've always wanted to ask you and other professionals like yourself. We're talking about people who have attempted to take their lives. They've spoken to you. These people come to you. Who do you go to?
Yes.
I mean, professionals like you get to hear these stories. What happen? What do you do?
Part of our training is we need to offload to someone else. So I'm very fortunate that I still stay in contact with my professors from Santa Clara in California. I also do case management with some local doctors who share the cases with me, who refer a client, and then we exchange cases on how we're managing that case. Sometimes when it's not on suicide, it's just, they are not daily routine relationship issues, other issues going on, financial difficulties, conflict mediation. I talk about these lighter cases, not so emotionally draining, with an email to my colleagues overseas. We have a network of mental health professionals, and we talk about this. I'm fortunate because I have had the privilege of having studied overseas and having worked with different professionals in different fields overseas in Australia, New Zealand, in Africa. So there's a lot of avenue for me to, I think I didn't do this so correctly. Could it have been done differently? And so it's always learning, and that's important for every professional out there, not only mental health professionals, but every professional out there. We need to be, take care of ourselves so we can take care of other people. If we fail to take care of ourselves, a friend of mine said to me, you're the CEO for your body, for your mental capacity as well. If you are not managing yourself properly, how can you manage other people? So I believe that and try as much as possible to.
Well, Selena, thank you so much for doing what you do. I know a lot of people there are thankful. Time is catching up with us again. Just your final advice probably to anyone out there who may be going through some rough times and has suicide on their mind.
You are not alone, that there is help available through the local hospitals and health centers, through the Fiji Police, through the social welfare. And even more recently, I know discussions have started with the National Fire Authority in terms of the Emergency Medical Services Division. So, there is help available. I know it's hard and it might sound very easy for me to sit here and say this, but help is available. We care, I care for you, and I am, your community cares about what happens to you. Don't ever think that, just today if I disappear, it won't make a difference. It will make a difference. And I hope today with the message that we've given to you, that you will come out. If you're able to light a candle at your window at 8 p.m. tonight, great. If you're able to join us 5 to 6, Lower Civic Auditorium, even better. Thank you very much for having me on the show. And
Well, Selina, thank you so much for being part of the show today. And to you listening in from home, if you're able to make it down to the Suva Civic Center today, be there. But if not, if you're at home, light a candle by your window at 8 p.m. tonight to remember those who have lost their lives to suicide and those who have survived. But until then, until next time, remember, suicide is not the answer. There's always somewhere else, always someone to talk to, and there's always some other avenue. Until then, I'm Roland. Good afternoon.